A report to the Wicklow County Police Department from October 2010 records the disappearance of two people in the Ballinastoe woods. Closer to night during a school camp, 17-year-old Reuben quietly left the tent and disappeared. For a short time, the absence of the teenager was noticed by 30-year-old French teacher Emma. An audio recording of the emergency call to the rescue service captured the labored breathing and rapid heartbeat of the group's companion, who stated that the teacher had gone into the woods alone to look for the student and had not returned. A survey of the scene found the teenager's belongings untouched. His mobile phone, backpack, and documents remained inside the tent. The operational group arrived in the sector in the middle of the night. The protocol of the initial interrogation recorded the physiological reactions of Reuben's parents, a sudden spasm of the vocal cords in the mother and muscle stiffness in the father. Both signed the documents with noticeable trembling fingers under the influence of panic. Over the next 48 hours, ground rescue teams conducted a thorough sweep of the area along the Avonmore riverbank. Forensic analysis of the forest undergrowth yielded 0 results. The official conclusion of the criminologists states that the top layer of soil remained intact and broken branches, shoe prints, or signs of dragging are completely absent. The signals from the mobile phones of both individuals disappeared from the radar of the base stations simultaneously. The vector of the investigation changed radically on the 4th day. Operatives searched the Foreign Languages Office at the Rutdrum City School. According to the protocol of the examination of physical evidence, a paper envelope without markings was found in the teacher's desk drawer. Laboratory analysis confirmed that the handwriting belonged to Reuben. The case materials preserved a transcript of the letter, in which the student expressed a secret confession of love to Emmy. This detail instantly reformatted the course of the case. Transcripts of interrogations of Reuben's classmates and teachers revealed new evidence. 3 students confirmed in writing that the boy regularly stayed in the classroom after lessons alone with the teacher. The school began to actively gossip about a hidden romance. The environment expressed complete confidence that the couple had arranged a voluntary escape to be alone. The status of the victims in the documents was changed to the status of fugitives. Public pressure blocked further investigative actions. The public demanded that funding for rescue efforts for those who were hiding on purpose be stopped. A management report from October 28, 2010, confirms that the active phase of the search operation in the forest was officially rolled back due to public pressure. However, the criminal report of the technical service, sent to the archive on the day of the cessation of work, contained the results of the analysis of automatic forest photo traps, which completely refuted the version of voluntary escape, but were completely ignored by the investigation. 5 years of archival silence in the case of the voluntary disappearance of the lovers from Ballinastoe was annulled in one day. In May 2015, during a routine patrol of a hard-to-reach gorge of Mount Derryvaven, an inspector recorded an abnormal silhouette in the upper tier of the crown of an old 20-meter fir tree. An optical device confirmed a person was on the tree. Rescue and operational groups left for the forest sector immediately. At the very top of the fir tree was 17-year-old Reuben, alive, reduced to a skeleton and firmly chained to the trunk with a heavy industrial chain. Experts' examination of the tree established the impossible effect. There were no scratches on the bark and branches from climbing cats, hooks, or rope friction. The lower dry branches of the fir remained intact, which physically excluded the classic human climb up the trunk. The nature of the teenager's fixation at a height contradicted the laws of biomechanics. Hydraulic shears cut through hardened steel chains at a height of 20 meters. The evacuation protocol records Ruben's critical physiological disturbances during the descent to the ground. The boy was in a state of complete catatonia. His glassy gaze was fixed in one point. The reaction of the pupils to the light of the lanterns was absent. Any physical contact caused instantaneous convulsive panic attacks. The back muscles were convulsed with strong spasms. The monitors recorded chaotic pulse fluctuations from 60 to 165 beats per minute. Through a severe spasm of the larynx, Ruben completely lost his speech, producing only a dull, intermittent hissing. Animal fear completely paralyzed the teenager. The case was resumed with a frantic operational dynamics. The police department deployed a thorough grid scanning of the gorge. The initial medical report established that the boy's weight had dropped to 38 kilograms. His skin was covered in sores from chain friction, and hair analysis confirmed chronic starvation throughout the time he was missing. No trace of the 30-year-old teacher Emma was found within a 3-kilometer radius. The school's version of the lover's voluntary escape was completely refuted. Ruben was placed in an isolated box in the hospital of the city of Rathdrum under armed guard. The investigative team removed the industrial lock and chain for laboratory express analysis. A macro photography of the locking mechanism gave the first shocking break in the investigation. On the inside of the bracket, under a layer of grease, forensic experts found a fingerprint. The results of the computer scan through the national database gave a 100% match. The hair belonged not to Ruben or Emma, but to an unknown donor whose DNA profile the police had extracted from the scene of a brutal, unsolved murder at a mountain campsite in 2003. The fingerprint system yielded a match. The print on the fur's padlock belonged to 42-year-old forester Sean O'Reilly. The detectives tracked his private SUV by the coordinates of the service GPS tracker. 3 crew members staged a fake traffic jam on a narrow mountain road and blocked the target vehicle. The report records a burst of resistance. O'Reilly barricaded himself in the cabin, rammed the patrol car, and tried to grab the Special Forces gun during the glass break. He was tightly fixed in handcuffs. A search of the trunk revealed 2 cans of G22 lubricant, grade 70 chains, and a hydraulic tool in the trunk. The reserve's archives revealed a motive. Over the past 6 years, various tour groups had filed 7 complaints about O'Reilly's actions. The records documented armed threats with a rifle, forced escorting of people, and pushing civilians off unofficial trails around Mount Derrybon. The investigation found evidence of the detainees' deep knowledge of the terrain and a prima facie case for charges. At 2:20 p.m., O'Reilly was taken to Interrogation Room 2 at the Rathdrum precinct, where technical personnel attached heart rate sensors to his chest. The video recording of the interrogation captured a radical change in the suspect's demeanor after being presented with photo spreads featuring the exhausted 17-year-old Ruben atop the fir tree. The camera captured an instantaneous stiffening of the detainee's facial and neck muscles. His gaze completely froze in one spot, ceasing to react to the officer's movements. The hunter's fingers on the table during the signing of the inspection protocol began to tremble slightly. The investigator made a direct accusation of kidnapping a teenager and the elimination of 30-year-old Emma based on the discovered connection with the criminal archive of cases in 2003. The telemetric protocol recorded a sharp psychophysiological reaction to the question about the exact location of the teacher's remains. O'Reilly began to hyperventilate, his pulse wildly fluctuating from 75 to 155 beats per minute over 12 minutes of psychological pressure. Yeager responded with a complete speech paralysis due to a spasm of the larynx. His skin was covered with icy sweat, and the vocal sensors recorded only a dull hiss when he tried to inhale. The profilers identified this state as a precursor to a complete mental breakdown. The direction of the investigation took a complete turn later in the evening, when the detainee partially regained speech function. According to the audio record, O'Reilly denied being in Ballinasloe Woods at the time of the attack. The recording contains the statement that on the night of the disappearance, he was transporting timber illegally through the woods to the other end of the country. The patrol team immediately left to seize digital media from commercial premises along the specified route. A recovered digital file from the security camera of the private 24-hour gas station Alpha Petrol completely eliminated the prosecution's version. The frames captured Sean O'Reilly's face at the checkout 150 miles from the crime scene at exactly 3:14 on the night of Ruben and Emma's disappearance. The terminal confirmed payment in cash. The calculation proved that it was physically impossible to cover the distance of 150 miles in less than 4 hours, which ruled out the presence of the sniper in the Ballinasloe camp during the attack. The investigation version collapsed. Forensic experts sent an urgent update to the ballistic report, which finally drove the investigation into a dead end. A repeated molecular analysis of the lock bracket revealed that the detected fingerprint was artificially applied using a silicone matrix mold. The real kidnapper had previously copied the ranger's fingerprint data from the forestry paper archives in order to intentionally frame O'Reilly and send the police on a false investigative trail. A technical analysis revealed a remote hack in the forestry radio communication system through an encrypted VPN protocol, which gave the unknown person the ability to hear every step of the operatives in real time. The fiasco with O'Reilly's accusation and the discovery of a silicone fingerprint cast forced the investigative team to change the vector of action. Understanding that the killer controls the department's radio airwaves through hacking communication systems, the investigation leader removed materials from public access and transferred operatives to a regime of complete information isolation. Instead of checking suspects, the team of analysts returned to the primary source, physical evidence on Mount Derrybone. The police brought in arborists to conduct an instrumental scan of the 20-meter fir tree where Ruben was found. The expert report recorded the destruction of the internal structure of the tree. Ultrasonic sensors detected a hidden cavity along the entire trunk of the fir tree. The core drilling protocol recorded signs of intervention. Inside the tree, the kidnapper mounted a system of blocks, a 4mm steel cable, and moving counterweights. Engineering analysis revealed the mechanism of the impossible lift. The perpetrator, possessing the skills of an arborist, acted from inside the trunk through a hollow near the roots. He lifted Ruben vertically, like a load, using a hidden pulley. Counterweights compensated for the mass of the teenager's body, allowing him to be fixed at height without damaging the outer bark, branches, or using noticeable equipment. The mechanics of the trick were calculated to create a mystical illusion to disorient the police. Meanwhile, the search party expanded the scanning area to the foot of the neighboring ridge. A new plot twist occurred after the discovery of Emma's personal item, her French textbook. The officers recorded the find inside an abandoned concrete drainage collector. The object presented the second paradox of the case. The book lay deep in the tunnel, yet the only entrance to the collector had been completely blocked by a massive boulder after a landslide in 2005. A physical examination of the rock confirmed the absolute immobility of the rock. The moss at the joints was intact, which ruled out human penetration into the tunnel through this passage in the present time. The investigation found itself facing another anomaly that contradicted the laws of physical space. The operation management engaged a group of industrial speleologists to search for alternative access routes to the collector. According to the reconnaissance report, on the opposite slope of the ridge, 300 meters from the collapse, georadars detected a narrow vertical ventilation pipe with a diameter of only 12 centimeters. Laboratory analysis of the inner walls of this pipe revealed fresh traces of industrial lubricant and fibers of synthetic cable. Forensic examination gave a strict, logical explanation for the actions of the kidnapper. The criminal calculated the architecture of the underground utilities using old forestry maps. He did not enter the collector. The kidnapper used a flexible, articulated video probe with a remote gripper, pushing Emma's textbook through a narrow ventilation vent directly from the top of the ridge. The projectile passed through the pipe at an angle and fell into the closed cavity of the collector. The protocol of analyzing the maniac's actions established a clear logic. It was a planned sabotage against the investigation. The criminal deliberately threw a marked item into an inaccessible place to force the police to use drilling equipment, spend resources, and waste operational time on futile excavations and demolition of the rubble. This allowed him to completely divert the headquarters' attention from the real place of Rubin's detention. Operatives seized the textbook after local drilling of the tunnel's reverse vault. On the last page of the cover, forensic experts found a fresh trace in the form of dry mud. The results of the spectral analysis of the substance arrived at the head of the investigation's office in the middle of the night. The chemical composition of the mud had no relation to the soil of Derrybawn Mountain or Balinistow Forest. The substance proved to be a specific sludge that is formed exclusively during the industrial washing of fresh river stone and wood processing at sawmills. The results of the analysis of the specific wood-stone sludge from Emma's manual narrowed down the investigation sector, but did not give exact coordinates of the hideout. The investigative team changed its methodology. Instead of working out local forest sectors, analysts uploaded chemical parameters of the substance and topographic markers into a single database of the criminal investigation. The police began cross-matching the case with other unsolved cases of people disappearing in the region over the past 12 years. The information system provided immediate confirmation. Detectives' analysis revealed 3 similar criminal cases that were previously thought to be unrelated due to their geographical dispersion. Upon comparing timelines, the investigation found a serial pattern. The abductor acted according to a rigid pattern. He exclusively chose 2 individuals bound by strong mentor-apprentice ties. The archives listed a sports coach with a trainee, a biologist with an intern, and an instructor with a trainee. The analytical report stated that the 5-year interval since the kidnapping of Rubin and Emma was approaching a critical point. The pattern indicated that the kidnapper had fully prepared and would carry out a new kidnapping of a similar profile. Since the sludge from the previous chapter belonged to the woodworking industry of the foothills, the headquarters decided to anticipate the criminal and intercept him during an attempt to capture a new couple he was already tracking. To carry out the plan, the operation management deployed a hidden trap near the village of Lara. The police launched Operation Live Bait. 2 operatives went undercover on the Wicklow Way tourist trail. Junior Lieutenant Sarah Lynch imitated the behavior of a female tourism instructor, and Sergeant David Vance played the role of her student. They carried equipment with built-in hidden microphones and satellite beacons. Special forces groups were withdrawn at a distance of 5 kilometers without using transport. Surveillance continued from midday without visual contact. Closer to night, the weather conditions worsened, and the dense mountain fog reduced visibility to 3 meters. According to the audio signal decoding protocol, communication between agents remained stable until they reached the fork near the ravine. The audio log recorded a sudden crunching of breaking branches behind Vance, followed by the connection becoming garbled with static. The attack was swift. A massive male figure emerged from the fog, later identified as 45-year-old Wayne McCarthy. The perpetrator acted with high dynamics, using a heavy arborist's lopper as a bludgeoning weapon. The first strike came to Vance's left forearm. The medical report recorded that the sergeant suffered an open fracture that caused immediate traumatic shock, acute shortness of breath, and brief muscle paralysis from pain-induced collapse. McCarthy attempted to subdue Lynch by applying a chokehold using a chemical agent. The altercation escalated into a violent physical confrontation. The operative blocked the movement of the attacker's hand, neutralizing the action of the substance, and fired 2 shots from her service weapon into the ground. Despite the pain shock and spasm of the airways, Vance used the weight of her own body, knocked McCarthy off his feet, and pinned him to the ground. 4 minutes later, the first assault team arrived at the scene, guided by the distress signal. The special forces used force and handcuffed the maniac's wrists. During the initial search of the detainee's clothing, operatives seized items that completely refuted the version of an ordinary robbery. In the inner pocket of McCarthy's jacket was a heavy iron key with the factory stamp Echo and a portable wireless receiver. When the expert turned on the monitor screen, a live video broadcast in real time from a dark underground room appeared on the digital display, where someone's hands were moving in the corner on the concrete floor under the flashes of the infrared camera. The video broadcast on McCarthy's receiver and the Echo stamp on the railroad key gave the investigation the exact coordinates of the hideout. Analysts pinpointed the location of the site through the Forestry Department's registration records of Wicklow County, an abandoned private sawmill, Tom's Timber Yard, near Roundwood Village. Topographic maps matched the chemical parameters of the woodstone sludge from Emma's manual perfectly. The lead investigator ordered the SWAT tactical unit to conduct an emergency blitz raid on the industrial site. The first phase of the operation ended in complete failure. The SWAT assault team entered the premises through the ventilation shafts, but recorded absolute emptiness. The video surveillance servers were thermally destroyed 10 minutes before the law enforcement entered. Security logs confirmed the remote erasure of evidence. An operational check of the communication lines revealed a systemic betrayal. An informant inside the police station sent McCarthy a coded phone call in advance, passing on the operation plan. The criminal managed to evacuate. Immediately after the failure of the first raid on the closed terminal, the head of the investigation received a data package from an autonomous satellite monitoring system for forest roads, the existence of which no one inside the department knew. The digital log obtained contained a 2-day-old video recording. The camera clearly captured McCarthy's truck entering the sawmill's drying shed. The footage showed him unloading industrial chains and derivative equipment components that fully matched the description of the items from Emma and Rubin's 2010 materials. This secret evidence finally confirmed McCarthy's connection to the kidnappings and pointed to a specific location in the shed. To prevent a repeat leak through a mole, the operation leader acted in conditions of complete secrecy. He confiscated mobile terminals from the entire staff of the Ratdram department and completely isolated the personnel in the building. Only 3 people from the top command knew about the new evidence and the repeat raid. A mobile group of 3 detectives immediately left for the site in a civilian car without using official radio stations, relying solely on the effect of complete surprise. A repeated secret attempt ended in success. The detectives broke into the drying shop and began dismantling the floor. Under the cover, Detective Vance noticed an abnormal line of joints under the layer of tars and rotten bark. Operatives discovered a camouflaged hydraulic hatch. The railroad key seized from McCarthy fit the locking mechanism. Under the wooden covering, a vertical passage opened, leading to a 3 by 3 meter underground concrete bunker. The walls of the object were covered with steel panels, with built-in industrial chains and heavy shackles. The examination recorded deep abrasions on the metal from prolonged pressure on the skin. In the corner of the bunker, under a thick layer of building plaster, forensic experts found evidence of the first kidnapping in 2010. A smashed camera of Emma was lifted to the surface with a removed memory card. When sifting through the mixture, the operatives found skeletal human remains. Forensic dental examination confirmed the remains belonged to a 30-year-old French teacher. According to the pathologist's conclusion, the cause of death was a gunshot wound to the chest area, received on the first day of the kidnapping while trying to protect a student. Over 1,800 scratches were found on the steel walls, with which Rubin marked the days in complete darkness. The expert opinion proves that the teenager was tortured here for 5 years with cognitive control, sensory deprivation, and psychological breaking of the personal code. McCarthy turned it into an object capable of acting solely on external permission. During the dismantling of the structures, Detective Vance discovered a hidden void on the reverse side of the steel panel. Inside the wall was a sealed safe. The operatives opened the lock using a hydraulic tool. In the safe lay a folder with paper dossiers on 8 people. According to the Central Apparatus records, all these people were officially considered alive, but on each photo card there was a black McCarthy stamp with dates, the first of which belonged to 2003. The discovery of a sealed safe with files on 8 living people and the skeletal remains of Emma inside the bunker allowed the prosecution to instantly form an indictment. The Central Criminal Court ruled to immediately open a hearing in the case of Wayne McCarthy. The main problem of the prosecution remained the psychological state of the only living witness. For weeks before the trial, Rubin did not utter a word due to chronic catatonia. The medical service took extreme measures to stabilize his nervous system, as without his direct testimony, the defense tried to attribute the materials found in the bunker to third parties or previous owners of the sawmill. The court hearing protocol recorded the launch of the final ocular bet during the hearing. Rubin was led into the hall under the escort of 2 medical specialists. Video recording of the process documented the moment of his visual contact with the defendant McCarthy. In GG, an instantaneous psychophysiological collapse occurred. The muscles of the neck and back completely stiffened. A sudden cessation of breathing was recorded due to a severe spasm of the diaphragm. The guy started to slump to the floor, his body shaken by convulsions of panic, and his fingers on his hands clenched in a spastic lock. The cameras captured the profuse cold sweat that instantly covered the witness's face. However, after a prolonged pause accompanied by shortness of breath and a chaotic pulse jump, Rubin overcame the physical paralysis. According to the court transcript, the boy raised a frozen, glassy stare, fixed it on the defendant, and pointed directly at Wayne McCarthy, for the first time in 5 years uttering a hoarse but clear, "It's him." The defendant met the accusation with absolute stone-cold calm. McCarthy's medical monitoring indicators during the direct recognition remained within the norm. The heart rate did not exceed 70 beats per minute. No mimic movements or tremors of the limbs were recorded. According to the official protocol, McCarthy suddenly refused the services of a lawyer and stated his desire to give detailed testimony. His court appearance showed no signs of remorse. The audio recording captured a flat, monotone, and clinically detached voice of a person reading a scientific report. The court transcript detailed the philosophy behind his criminal activity. McCarthy stated that he acted as a curator of purity, and his crimes were acts of salvation, not violence. According to the case materials, The defendant considered human relationships, especially the bonds between mentors and students, to be the highest point of the evolution of the spirit, which the corrupt modern society inevitably destroys and turns into dirt. His methodology consisted of the complete physical removal of this fragile masterpiece from society. McCarthy has described in detail the process of conservation. The elimination of the mentor on the first day was a technical necessity for the destruction of the external connections of the pair, and the keeping of the student in a bunker under full cognitive control was the process of creating an ideal, purified from the dirt of society object. On the audio recording of the meeting, his phrase about the 5 years of Ruben's isolation in the dark being the highest manifestation of care, as the boy remained a clean exhibit in his private collection, can be heard. The defendant's speech caused a shock effect in the hall. McCarthy methodically listed the technical details of the boy's detention, describing the chains and control sensors as tools for preserving the form. The judge twice attempted to interrupt the monologue, but the defendant ignored the remarks, moving on to describe the dossier found in the safe. According to the transcript, McCarthy stated that the folder contained not just photographs of living people, but a chronicle of his previous engineering experiments, which he had successfully implemented over the past 12 years. The team of prosecutors recorded the final detail of the speech. McCarthy smiled and announced that each name on the list is a finished masterpiece whose true location the police will not be able to guess even with the help of his diaries. McCarthy's cynical statement at the court hearing forced the forensic laboratory to immediately begin decoding the files from the sealed safe with a drill. The technical analysis group cracked the encrypted digital archive of the accused, which contained engineering drawings and reports that systematized the chronicle of 8 serial murders over the past 12 years. Each episode in the database was presented as a completed design project where living people became elements of static structures. The state prosecutor presented this mass of data to the court in the form of a single textual report, reading only the technical parameters of each elimination scheme to avoid emotional speculation by the defense and maintain a strict legal format of the investigation. The archive was opened by the 2003 project called Ice Nymph, where the object was locked inside a frozen mountain waterfall. The body was discovered only during the natural spring thaw of the ice mass. In 2005, McCarthy implemented the piggy bank scheme, luring 2 tourists into an abandoned vertical mine shaft. They were connected by a system of tension wire, so that an attempt to lift one automatically activated a strangulation mechanism on the other. The next episode in 2006, titled Scarecrow, described the fixation of a body on a wooden cross in the middle of a field, where the limbs were attached to a moving mechanism of a windmill to imitate the movements of a living person. The 2007 project, ARC, recorded the immobilization of a person at the bottom of a deep lake where surgical clamps were used to forcibly fix the eyelids in a completely open state. The chronicle continued in 2008 with the project Monastery Wall, which was a live entombment of a woman inside a hidden niche of an ancient Celtic ruin, where the stones of the outer masonry were fitted without the use of visible seams. In 2009, McCarthy recorded 2 episodes. In the first, titled Iron Cocoonness, the object was tightly wrapped in 50 meters of barbed wire and suspended from steel cables under a railway bridge construction directly above a precipice. The second project of that year, Peat Mask, involved burial in a peat environment, where the high acidity of the peat ensured natural mummification of the tissues with fixation of the pre-mortem silent mimicry. He completed the Archive 2010 project and the Lunar Camera project, which involved placing a person in a concrete container with microphones that recorded an audio recording of the gradual fading of the heartbeat. The presentation of this list completely destroyed the line of defense, as each point was confirmed by physical evidence found at the exact coordinates from McCarthy's archive. Operatives seized hidden tools, remnants of silicone matrices, and specific materials that the maniac officially purchased through fictitious accounts of sawmills. Attempts by lawyers to prove the defendant's insanity failed after the announcement of the conclusion of a comprehensive psychiatric examination. Experts found McCarthy to be fully aware, able to calculate the legal consequences of his actions, and cold-bloodedly manipulate the investigation through the hacking of police radios. Based on this body of evidence, the panel of judges delivered the final verdict. Wayne McCarthy was found guilty on all counts, including 8 counts of serial murder, the kidnapping of 17-year-old Ruben, the elimination of 30-year-old Emma, and espionage against law enforcement. The court sentenced him to life imprisonment in a maximum security colony without the right to parole or appeal. The courtroom captured the final moment of the process. The verdict did not cause any emotion on McCarthy's face. His gaze remained completely frozen as the convoy fixed his hands in handcuffs behind the bars. The case of the Ballynastow escapees received a complete legal closure. The camera screen fades slowly to complete darkness under the monotonous linear beep of a heart monitor, taken from an encrypted archival recording of McCarthy's last victim, capturing the final system shutdown.